Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. Fernando?
Good morning, guys.
Today we have something that I know a lot of you are going to be like, why are you doing that? Is that even relevant? Is it like, who does that? This guy.
It is.
This guy does it. And I bet you're just dying to know what it is. So let's roll the intro. Some of you may have heard of this service before. It's called SiriusXM. Fernando, have you ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
It's a pay-for music thing.
Oh, no. I don't want
that streams into your radio in the dash.
Yes, and that's horrible.
Now, I know a lot of you are like, who even does that? Well, if you're a Howard Stern fan, well, that would be the one reason.
Now, if you are 20 years old or 15 years old, you not do that.
No, you have Pandora, Spotify,
Apple Music,
iHeartRadio. There's a ton of music services out there. However, some people are still in that I like SiriusXM. And I know you can get it on your phone, which a lot of people do now because it actually sounds better to just stream it to your phone. But for everyone else outside of that world that is like, no, I just like it when my tuner's built in. I don't want to have to do anything. I like simple. Well then, this is for you. Today, what we're going to be doing is we have a Nissan Titan that we've already put the radio in, and the customer came back today because he's like, you know what? I really miss my SiriusXM. And we're like, no problem. We can do that. A lot of you guys that are into this SiriusXM, you'll see it on the box of the radio and it'll say SiriusXM, and you're like, is it built in? How does it work? What do I need? That's why we're doing this today. Take you through the steps of adding the SiriusXM tuner to your aftermarket radio. For those of you that have like factory radios and you really like SiriusXM, but you're on the fence as far as whether or not you want to swap out the factory radio because you don't want to lose your SiriusXM, this is all you guys. This is all about that. So let's head over to the bench and I'll show you the parts that you need. This is the SVX 300 add-on SiriusXM tuner. This guy right here. On one end, it has the antenna input. On the other end, it has the plug that plugs into the back of the radio. The cable itself is about 2 feet long. Keep that in mind for where you have to mount this. In certain situations, if the car does have a factory antenna, if it doesn't come up to behind the radio, you will need to get an extension in order to use it. And speaking of an antenna, that's what's gonna come in the box also. Now this has like a 20-foot cable. It's rather long and it comes with an alcohol wipe. It is magnetic. Clean the area where you wanna put it and stick it on. If you're gonna put it on something like fiberglass, make sure you put some really thick 3M double-sided tape onto it. And speaking of fiberglass, this will also mount under fiberglass and plastic that does see the sky. So for example, like in a Corvette where you have a convertible top and that top lifts open, you can actually put this underneath the top. You can also put this in the hood scoops on the engine. For example, in a Mercedes where it has those 2 hood scoops up on the top, this can mount up underneath those and work perfectly fine. It can see through plastic. You just want to make sure that there is a big enough area around it so that it still has good angles to see the sky. Now whether you get a bag or a box, the number you're going to need is this guy right here. This is your ESN number. It's also located on channel 0. It's also located on the back of the unit. Once the unit's powered up, we'll show you what that looks like. Installing the antenna is really where the fun starts. If you have a factory SiriusXM, there's 2 pieces you want to check to see if they'll work in your car. This is a SAT1. It has a FACRA style adapter on the end of it that will plug into your factory antenna, and then this will plug into the SVX 300. This is the SAT2. It has a different style end on it. Typically it's roundish and has a little clip on top. This end will plug into your tuner. For the rest of you, you're gonna have to add that antenna to your car. If you have a sedan, I recommend putting it on like the trunk lid. We have this pickup truck. Before you ask, there's gonna be some people that say I can put it on the dash in my car and it works fine. That's true. In some places it does. However, the way the satellites work, we're down here in Florida and we're kind of on the far end, meaning that the angle to reach them is very steep. Dash just doesn't work here. We always go for the outside of the car. That's gonna function best. Set yourself up for success, people. Depending on the type of car you're working on, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Let's hop up here and I'll show you what I mean. This window trim here is what you're gonna wanna run underneath. In some cars, this goes right over to here, meaning that there's no solid, the window comes all the way over, in which case you can actually just come and tuck in through the boot here and get into the car. This style, you can't though. This style, you're gonna put your antenna somewhere over here. I'm not a fan of the center. I personally like it off to one side. That's how the factory does it, is they put it off to one side. The other thing too is to keep in mind it is a magnet. If you're worried about your paint, you may want to get some of that clear vinyl and put it underneath so it doesn't scratch the paint. Otherwise, you stick it here and then you're going to work your way and run it into the engine bay. So you have to go all along here and this way. Check that out before you start if you're going to be doing it yourself, and also talk to your installer. In some cases, people like to put it up here by the third brake light. They'll pull this out, they'll put it there. I'm not a big fan of that because this, I don't know, it just seems like anytime you do anything with this, you get a leak. For me, it just makes more sense to go up front. That's up to you to decide. When you come down the windshield like this, you're gonna come in, come around, and you have to bring it into the engine compartment. Once in the engine compartment, you have to figure out where you're gonna go through the firewall. That's gonna determine really what side of the car you're gonna go down, because you wouldn't bring it down this side, come all the way across the engine bay to go in through there. You would just come down this side of the car and into the bay, which is what we're gonna be doing today. Let's join Fernando as he starts to run the antenna.
So now that we have the antenna, we're gonna grab the wiper and we're gonna clean the area right here. I like to do it twice. Place the antenna where you wanted to put it. And for that, I like to use this skinny plastic pry tool. I go under the rubber, and I definitely recommend you to use something like a plastic panel tool, because you don't want to use a screwdriver or something like that, because you might cut the antenna or crack the wing.
For us, there's a grommet here in the engine bay, so that allows us to come down the window, come in, and then we're gonna come out of this grommet here. There's another grommet that's gonna take us back into the car. This grommet is only for this area up here. We wanna stay away from the windshield wipers motors. If you're doing an SUV, you're gonna have something like this in the SUV as well. In the back area, take a razor and put a slight hole in it, and then you're going to want to put some silicone either on the back or front side, or if you have access to it, we use this stuff, 3M strip caulk, model number 08578. We also refer to it as black goo. You can see it's rather gooey. It is an automotive grade, never dry goo. Stuff that into the hole, and that'll keep water and the elements out of the grommet. The nice thing about that particular stuff is, like I said, it never dries. It stays sticky forever, and the car is going to shake, move, rattle, and it won't rip off of the plastic. Our wire is now nicely ran up the window and securely mounted in place. This stuff is not easy to get around. All I can say is when you're doing this, go slow and take your time. Next, you're going to need to figure out where you're gonna come through the firewall on. In this particular vehicle, there's a main wiring harness grommet here. There's the hood release grommet here. Most vehicles, if you fold up, if there's no clutch, there'll be a panel in this area that you can drill through. We were lucky in that there is a factory grommet here that came out, and we're gonna come through this, which is this guy right here. What we'll do is we'll remove the center of this grommet out, or we'll see if one of our snap grommets fits, and we'll run the wire through the firewall. We decided to repurpose the factory grommet, put it back in place, and then we put more 3M strip caulk over it. You can cover the whole area. As you can see, it will move and shift and not cause any issues over time. It stays nice and sealed. It is gooey as can be. Just work with it like clay. Now that we're through the firewall, we'll run it up into the dash, across, and in behind the radio. We opted for the area to the passenger side of the radio. We were able to zip tie it into place. It's tucked in. The radio will clear that. Once outside, you want to make sure you have a clear view of the sky. I mean, there's nothing in your way, no tall buildings or anything like that. Source through to the SiriusXM. It should update and then start streaming.
Just call 8.
And as you can hear from that, it's going to give you your telephone number. It's going to be on channel 001. And if you toggle back one station, it'll take you to 000, and your radio ID will then be displayed. And that's it, guys. That's adding to SiriusXM. At this point, snap the radio dash bezel back in place and enjoy your SiriusXM monthly subscription.
Yay!
Good on you. Fernando?
On to the next one, guys.
Have a nice night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.